Café Estrella. The sign outside reads Café Estrella in flowing script, painted in deep turquoise and gold, colors that seem to pulse with their own heartbeat against the gray concrete of the Manhattan sidewalk. Steam rises from the narrow windows, fogging the glass where someone has traced a small heart with their fingertip. Inside, the walls breathe with life. Frida Kahlo moves between the tables like a hummingbird, her long skirts rustling against chair legs as she adjusts a vase of sunflowers here, straightens a small cactus there. The walls behind her are her canvas, vibrant murals of jaguars prowling through tropical foliage, monkeys swinging from coffee plant branches, and hearts that bloom into roses and wilt into thorns. The colors are so saturated they seem to leak into the air itself, vermilion bleeding into ochre, jade dancing with sapphire. Above, Vincent van Gogh stands on a ladder, adjusting one of dozens of pendant lights that hang from the ceiling like captured stars. Each bulb is wrapped in swirls of colored glass, blues that spiral into yellows, whites that burst into amber. When illuminated, they cast moving shadows across the walls as if the very air is alive with celestial motion. The ceiling becomes a living recreation of his most famous night sky, but warmer somehow, more intimate. The light needs to breathe, Vincent murmurs to himself, his Dutch accent soft as brushstrokes. His red beard catches the amber glow as he climbs down, paint-stained fingers never quite clean, despite the cafe towels tucked into his belt. The aroma is intoxicating, Colombian coffee beans grinding in an antique copper mill, mixed with the sharp tang of oil paints and turpentine from the easels scattered throughout the space. Someone has left a half-finished watercolor of the Manhattan skyline drying on table 6. Charcoal sketches are pinned to a corkboard near the register, alongside photographs of customers caught mid-laugh, mid-conversation, mid-creation. The afternoon crowd begins to filter in as the December sun slants low through the windows. A young poet with ink-stained fingers claims the corner booth, pulling a moleskin notebook from her messenger bag. She orders a cortado and immediately begins scribbling, crossing out lines, scribbling again. Her pen moves like Frida's paintbrush, urgent, passionate, searching for the exact shade of truth. At the communal table near the back, a TikTok dancer sets up her phone against a stack of art books. She's choreographing something fluid and contemporary to the ambient jazz flowing from the vintage speakers. Her movements echo the swirling patterns in Vincent's ceiling lights, graceful, hypnotic, reaching always towards something just beyond her fingertips. Between takes, she sips an iced chai and scrolls through comments, but her eyes keep drifting to the mural, where painted parrots seem to dance in rhythm with her gestures. A businessman in a rumpled suit sits alone at table 12, his laptop forgotten as he stares at Frida's self-portrait painted directly onto the brick wall beside his chair. In it, she gazes back at him with eyes that hold both suffering and defiance. A small monkey perched on her shoulder like a whispered secret. He hasn't touched his espresso in 20 minutes. Near the window, an elderly woman sketches the street scene beyond. Yellow taxis flowing like golden fish through a concrete river. Her weathered hands move with practiced confidence, and occasionally she pauses to sip her café con leche, leaving small lipstick marks on the rim. She's been coming here for 3 weeks now, always choosing the same seat, always drawing the same view, but somehow capturing something different each time. The university students arrive in clusters, backpacks heavy with textbooks and dreams. They commandeer the mismatched furniture, velvet armchairs from the 1940s mixed with modern metal stools, a wooden table scarred with the rings of 1,000 coffee cups beside sleek marble surfaces that reflect the swirling lights above. They debate philosophy over macchiatos, their voices rising and falling like a tide of ideas. Art should disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed, one declares, gesturing toward a small canvas where someone has painted a subway map in the style of Jackson Pollock. But who decides what's disturbing? Challenges another, her purple hair catching the amber light. Frida pauses in her flower arranging, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. She's heard this conversation before, in Paris cafes in the 1930s, in Mexico City cantinas, in hospital rooms where pain became beauty through sheer force of will. Some truths are eternal, cycling through each generation like seasons. Vincent emerges from behind the espresso machine, steam rising around him like morning mist. His movements are quick but careful as he crafts each drink, every foam leaf, every dusting of cinnamon, an unconscious work of art. The young barista he's training watches intently as he demonstrates the perfect pour for a Rosetta pattern. "See how the milk wants to move," Vincent says, his voice carrying the same intensity he once brought to his canvases. "Don't force it. Let it find its own way." The afternoon light begins to fade and the cafe transforms. The harsh edges of the city soften beyond the windows as the interior grows more luminous. Someone lights the pillar candles scattered on windowsills and table corners. The flames dance, casting moving shadows that make Frida's painted jaguars seem to prowl, and Vincent's swirling ceiling seem to pulse with cosmic energy. A group of art students from Parsons claims the corner near the easels, setting up an impromptu life-drawing session using a ceramic vase filled with dried sunflowers as their subject. Their charcoal scratches brushes against paper create a rhythm like rainfall. One student, frustrated with her proportions, crumples her paper and reaches for a fresh sheet. The sound echoes against the brick walls, and for a moment everyone looks up. Poet, dancer, businessman, grandmother, all united by the familiar frustration of creation. Frida walks over to the struggling student, her long skirts whispering against the floor. Without words, she takes a piece of charcoal and makes a few quick marks on a spare paper, not correcting, but suggesting. The lines flow like water, like breath, like the natural curve of a spine, under strain. The student nods, understanding something beyond technique. Pain, joy, both make the hand honest, Frida says quietly, her English accented but clear. As evening deepens, more souls drift in from the cold streets. A software developer from Silicon Alley sets up his laptop but finds himself watching the interactions around him instead of his code. A fashion designer sketches in the margins of Vogue magazine, reimagining haute couture through the lens of Frida's folk art aesthetic. Two philosophy professors debate Heidegger over shared tiramisu, their conversation weaving between English and French and back again. The sound layer builds. Conversations in multiple languages, the hiss of the espresso machine, the scratch of pencils and brushes, the soft jazz now mixed with someone humming along. It's not cacophony, but symphony, each element finding its place in the greater composition of the evening. Vincent adjusts the lights again, dimming some, brightening others, creating pools of warmth throughout the space. His movements are methodical, meditative. Each small change shifts the entire atmosphere. A brighter light here brings out the green in a painted vine. A softer glow there makes the businessman's tired eyes seem less haunted. At 8:30, without warning, the lights flicker and die. The espresso machine falls silent. The soft jazz stops mid-note. Outside, the street lamps have vanished, and the windows of surrounding buildings stare back like empty eyes. Manhattan has been swallowed by darkness, but Café Estrella doesn't panic. Vincent moves calmly to the emergency candles stored beneath the counter, and soon dozens of flames bloom throughout the space like night-blooming flowers. The candlelight transforms everything. Frida's murals become mysterious and alive. Vincent's ceiling catches the flickering glow and throws dancing shadows that are somehow more beautiful than the electric stars they've replaced. The customers don't flee. Instead, they seem to settle deeper into their chairs, drawn together by the intimate circle of light. The poet closes her laptop and pulls out a fountain pen, finding that words flow differently in the analog darkness. The TikTok dancer abandons her phone and begins to move purely for the joy of movement, her shadow playing across the painted walls like a living thing. The businessman finally speaks to the elderly woman at the next table, asking about her sketches. She shows him pages filled with observations, not just the street scenes, but small details he's never noticed. The way pigeons cluster around a pretzel vendor, the particular slouch of a construction worker at lunch break, the smile lines around a crossing guard's eyes. "I used to draw," he admits, and she slides a pencil across to him. The art students abandon their formal life drawing and begin sketching each other by candlelight. Their faces emerge from the paper with unusual tenderness. The soft focus of flame, revealing character rather than mere feature. One student, emboldened by the darkness, begins to sing softly in Spanish. Others join in with humming harmonies, creating music from nothing but breath and memory. Frida and Vincent find themselves standing together near the window, watching their creation unfold in the amber darkness. The cafe has become something beyond their original vision, not just a place to serve coffee and display art, but a sanctuary where strangers become momentary family, where the harsh edges of urban life soften into something more human. Like the old days, Frida murmurs, when people knew how to sit with each other. Vincent nods, his eyes reflecting the candlelight. The darkness makes space for other kinds of seeing. A child from the apartment upstairs appears at the window, face pressed against the glass, watching the warm glow spill onto the sidewalk. Someone waves her in, and soon she's at the communal table, drawing stick figures on napkins, while her mother, a nurse just off her shift, finally allows her shoulders to relax over a cup of hot chocolate. The conversation flows differently in candlelight. Voices are softer, more thoughtful. The harsh urgency of the day dissolves into something more contemplative. The philosophy professors find themselves discussing not Heidegger, but their childhood dreams. The fashion designer shows her sketches to the software developer, who reveals his own secret passion for watercolor landscapes. Time moves differently here, measured not in minutes, but in the slow burn of candles, the gradual shift of shadows across painted walls. Someone produces a deck of cards, and soon a gentle poker game develops at the back table, playing not for money, but for small drawings, quick poems, shared stories. The elderly woman begins to tell the story of her husband, an artist who never sold a painting but filled their apartment with joy. The businessman listens with an attention he hasn't given to anything in months. When she finishes, he tells her about his daughter away at college studying art, and how he wishes he understood what she sees in the world. Vincent moves between tables, refilling coffee cups from thermoses, his movements creating small breezes that make the candle flames dance. He pauses at the easel corner where someone has begun a group painting, each person adding a few strokes before passing the brush along. It's becoming something unforgettable unprecedented, a collective vision that belongs to no single artist but somehow captures the spirit of this particular evening, this particular gathering of souls seeking warmth. Frida sits with the young poet reading her work by candlelight. The words seem different in flame glow, more immediate, more vulnerable. When the poet asks about pain and art, about suffering and beauty, Frida doesn't offer easy answers but shares the question, turning it like a gem to catch different facets of light. The pain teaches the brush to be brave, she says finally, and the poet nods, understanding something she couldn't have learned from any book. Hours pass unnoticed. Outside, emergency vehicles flash red and blue as the city works to restore power, but inside Café Estrella, no one seems eager for the return of artificial light. They've discovered something that runs deeper than electricity, the ancient human gift for creating warmth and meaning from nothing but presence and shared attention. A guitar appears from somewhere, and soft music begins. Not performance, but participation, with voices joining in when they know the words, humming along when they don't. The songs are old and new in different languages, weaving together like threads in Frida's painted tapestries. Then, as suddenly as it departed, the power returns. The electric lights blaze, the espresso machine hums to life, the speakers resume their soft jazz. For a moment, everyone blinks in the harsh return of modernity, temporarily blinded by the brightness they'd forgotten. But something has changed. No one moves to extinguish the candles. The conversations continue at their deeper register. The businessman keeps sketching. The poet continues writing by flamelight even though her laptop has returned to life. The collective painting keeps growing, brush passed from hand to hand. Vincent dims the electric lights to their lowest setting, allowing the candles to remain the primary illumination. Frida smiles, understanding his instinct. They've discovered something together, not just their customers, but they themselves. The cafe has revealed its true nature in the darkness, and there's no returning to the surface light of before. As midnight approaches, people begin to reluctantly gather their things, but they move slowly, reluctant to break the spell. Phone numbers are exchanged, plans made to return tomorrow. The businessman asks the elderly woman if she'd like to sketch together in the park sometime. The poet and the TikTok dancer realize they live on the same subway line. The last customers linger at the door, looking back at the candlelit space that has somehow become larger and smaller simultaneously. Larger in spirit, smaller in the human connections that now bind them all together. Frida and Vincent stand among the tables, still warm with the presence of their guests, surrounded by the detritus of creation, coffee cups and wine glasses, scattered pencils and brushes, napkins covered with phone numbers and quick sketches. The communal painting still wet with possibility. Frida picks up her own brush and adds a small detail to the mural near the window. A tiny figure sitting in candlelight, face turned towards something beautiful just beyond the frame. Vincent adjusts one last light, creating a pool of gold that will be the first thing tomorrow's customers see when they enter. Outside, the city has returned to its electric buzz, but inside Café Estrella, time moves to a different rhythm. The candles burn low but steady, the painted walls seem to breathe with satisfaction, and somewhere in the ambient music, the ghost of evening's conversations continues. They've created more than a business. They've carved out a space where art and life intersect, where strangers can become momentary family, where the harsh geometries of urban existence soften into something more human, more hopeful. As Frida locks the door and Vincent blows out the last candle, they know tomorrow will bring new faces, new stories, new moments of connection sparked by nothing more than coffee and creativity, and the simple human need to be seen, to be heard, to be part of something larger than oneself. The city sleeps around them, but Café Estrella pulses with gentle life, ready to open again tomorrow and offer its quiet miracle. A place where art lives not on walls, but in the space between one person and another, in the moment when isolation transforms into understanding, when individual vision becomes collective joy. The sign outside still glows softly in the street lamp light, Café Estrella, and the heart traced on the window has been joined by others, small anonymous declarations of the warmth to be found within.